One of the things that I did was go to see a guy at Stanford, again, Silicon Valley story, named Ken Caldeira, who some of you may know is a top climate modeler. He had done some modeling of this idea of putting sulfates into the stratosphere and reflecting away sunlight. He did a model run of what the atmosphere would look like if you doubled CO2. And this is, you know, the redder it is, the hotter it is. And he did a model run of if you doubled CO2 and then you reflected away 1.8% of the sunlight. And the surprising thing that this shows in a very primitive way, and has been proven more in more modeling with some more subtlety, is that basically a geoengineered climate is closer to what we call a pre-industrial or a, before global warming climate than a doubling of CO2. So in a certain way, you can bring the climate back to what it was by putting some particles in the stratosphere. And so one of the keys of this whole thing is that what makes it so interesting is the amount of leverage that you get. The warming potential of 1 ton of carbon in the atmosphere can be offset with 5 grams of sulfur. Tiny amount in the stratosphere can offset the warming because of the solar intensity and things of this. So you don't have to, the upshot of this is you don't have to put very much up there to do this. So it makes it cheap. And I want to show you this because we want to talk about cost for just 1 second. So this is the gates they're putting up in Venice to save Venice from sea level rise or storm surges. They're spending $7 billion to put these gates that will protect the city, rightfully so. It's a jewel of human civilization and well worth saving. They're thinking of doing a similar thing now in New York, much earlier, of course, in development, but they've done similar things in St. Petersburg. Of course, the Netherlands has all kinds of dikes and gates and barriers set up. But the point I want to make is they're spending $7 billion to do this in Venice. They have spent, it's about done. And basically with geoengineering, that is about the cost of a decade of geoengineering of putting these particles up in the stratosphere to cool the entire planet, and presumably, if it worked right, slow sea level rise and cool things off. So you could do the entire planet for 10 years for the cost of storm barriers in Venice, for this one project. Whenever I think about this, I think about a book called The Control of Nature that John McPhee wrote about the Mississippi and how the Army Corps of Engineers thought they were going to solve all of the flooding problems in the Gulf by rerouting the Mississippi and all that. And John McPhee wrote an incredibly brilliant book about everything that went wrong and how it was just a disaster because they thought they were fixing one thing and they created 5 million other problems that are unsolvable, including subsidence and things that are causing great damage to New Orleans right now. And geoengineering has something in common with that. I mean, for the one thing, it's the equivalent of a diet pill for our problems. We've failed every other way of dealing with climate change. We're not cutting emissions, as I mentioned before. And I think that in thinking about this, it's pretty obvious that we human beings love to engineer our environments. We engineer, this lovely theater. We engineer buildings, we engineer AC where we live, we build cities, we do amazing things, right? But we like to live in engineered environments. And that we are going to be extending that, I think, to this larger environment that we live in called Earth. And I think the question in the future is not really about whether we do it or not, because I think that we are already doing it. It's not like we're talking about building condos in a redwood forest here, right? We're already messing with the Earth's climate hugely by burning fossil fuels and refusing and understanding that there is profound consequences to this and knowing that it's changing the climate in huge ways and really and doing it mindlessly. What we're really talking about with geoengineering is, can we do it in a mindful way? Can we begin to understand the levers and pulleys of the climate system in ways that might allow us to bring some semblance of control over this, rather than just this sort of mindless, let's just dump more stuff up there and hope and build bigger seawalls and do it in a kind of mindless way.